Hey everyone, it's Obi-Shawn doing a quick intro for this episode 61, which we recorded live from Cape Con 2023. Being this is a live stream at a convention with borrowed equipment, this will be relatively unedited, and given the time allotment, it's going to sound a bit like I'm jacked up on Mountain Dew. While we do touch on Ahsoka briefly, chatting our favorite scenes and some about episode 7, the meat of the discussion starts around the 16-minute mark, so feel free to jump ahead if you'd like. Other than that, sit back and relax. This is where the fun begins.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Why is the Force connecting us?
I am a Jedi. Always do, there are.
We're a dyad in the Force.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Force Dyad podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you may be listening, we are honored that you've joined us. We have a special episode today as we are live for the first time at Cape Con 2023 in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, to close out day 2 of the convention. For those of you who don't know us, this is your first time seeing us or listening to us. I am Sean, aka Obi-Shawn, and this is my co-host with the most,
John, Jedi John.
So, and we are the Force Dyad podcast. We're a Star Wars podcast. Brief history of us. We've been around now for 2.5 years. Got this will be our 60th actual episode.
Yeah.
Plus a couple of bonus episodes. And yeah, we're really excited to chat with you all this evening. We've got sort of a fun get to know us section. We're going to talk a little bit about Ahsoka because that is the sort of current Star Wars stuff. And then given that we're getting ready to close out the first season, presumably, of Ahsoka, we're going to do a Disney Plus ranking for
Disney content.
all of the stuff we've gotten so far, animated and live action.
Which
So
is a lot just in 4 years.
exactly,
It's kind of crazy, really.
It has been wild. So let's just kind of jump into it.
Yeah.
Let's tell the fine folks about ourselves. John, I'm going to have you go first.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to do your favorite. It's like a get to know you segment, right? So favorite movie, favorite character, favorite quote, and being that you and I are both collectors, your most treasured piece in your collection.
So my favorite movie, still to this day, is Empire Strikes Back. Are you surprised by that?
Kind of.
Yeah, you would be.
Yep.
My favorite character, I really went back and forth with this one because Boba Fett is true, just really close to me, and Count Dooku's probably a close second.
Okay. I was gonna say you're not picking Boba.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Boba.
Okay.
I got to. And then favorite quote. So, I don't know if I can get a high enough pitched voice for this, but Master Skywalker, what do we do? There's too many of them. No, I'm kidding. That's not it. I really wanted to go with the ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Also, and that's a really good one.
That's a good one.
But Master Yoda, tried and true.
Yeah.
Do or do not. There is no try. So, that's my favorite one.
Okay.
It means a lot to me. And then most treasured piece in my collection is probably my Jeremy Bulloch signed Boba helmet that sits in my case, and I don't touch it or wear it. It's not the wearable one.
It is proudly.
It is wearable.
Display. It is proudly on
it
display.
Is. It very much is. So that will never move from my house. So yeah, wraps up my stuff. What do you got?
Okay. All right. So
you surprised by my movie choice?
No, I'm not necessarily surprised by it, just because you're a cultured individual, and you would pick, of the 3 OT movies, that probably would. I mean, that is, I think, universally one of the more favorited films. So I'm actually going to go with, because whenever I think for favorite movie, I always think if it's on TV, I'm going to watch it. And for me, it's Revenge of the Sith. I will, believe it or not, I will kind of scroll past Empire Strikes Back sometimes. But I don't know what it is about Revenge of the Sith. Maybe it's because I actually saw it at midnight when it came out.
I think it depends on the scene. If I clock into the movie, and it's where I want to watch, I'll watch the entire thing.
Right. Close second would probably be Rogue One, because for the same reason, it's one of those where if it's on TV, I'm watching it. Favorite character, so probably unsurprisingly, it's going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You are Obi-Shawn.
I am Obi-Shawn. But main reason why is his complexity, the fact that they've been able to kind of flesh out his character over the last couple years with the Kenobi series and everything like that. So I feel like maybe aside from Ahsoka, he's probably and Luke to an extent, he's the most like fleshed out Jedi character that we've gotten. So favorite quote. So I didn't go with a three-peat for you, like
Yeah.
a 3-pack.
You're welcome.
But my quote actually is also Yoda's, because he does, for being as out there as he is, he does have quite a lot of knowledge. So, but it's from The Last Jedi, and it's the greatest teacher failure is. And so I feel like, that is very relatable in the real world, right? You learn more from your failures than you do your successes. And so I think it was an important lesson for Luke as it relates to that film. But it's a great quote nonetheless. Treasured piece of collection. So similar to you, I have a few different signed pieces in my collection. I do have Jeremy Bullock signed comic, Ahsoka Tano, Ashley Eckstein signed Ahsoka Tano, Lego Pop. But for me, it's got to be my Ewan McGregor autograph. I've got a episode 1 sort of like replica lightsaber that's been signed by him, and then a pop that my lovely wife got me for one Christmas. So those two sit proudly on my shelf. So that's a little bit about us. Real quick, discuss some stuff about Ahsoka. Try and stay away from spoilers for episode 7. I mean, are people watching Ahsoka? Are you watching Ahsoka? You enjoying Ahsoka? No, you're not enjoying. You're not watching it. That's fine. So anyways, so
we'll stay away from some spoilers.
We'll stay away from some spoilers. So favorite scene so far with Ahsoka?
I think everybody knew that Thrawn was going to show up, and I still think even though you can argue the CGI wasn't all there the best, but
sure.
Just that initial Thrawn appearance coming out of his ship with the troopers surrounding him, just a really cool moment. And even though you knew it was coming, just hearing the chant and just getting the kind of the goosebumps of it's Thrawn. So
definitely
really cool scene there. That's probably for me that and then I don't know,
not the Clone Wars stuff. You're not gonna do the Clone Wars stuff.
That's what I was gonna go with.
Okay,
but just but I didn't want to spoil too much.
Well, I mean so unless you've been able to stay off social media, you probably had some stuff spoiled, right?
Very
but
true.
So, and if you've seen a lot of the trailers, right, a lot of the big sort of reveals, unfortunately, were kind of spoiled in the trailers. So aside from the Clone Wars stuff, I actually, believe it or not, I really enjoyed a scene from this week's episode, I guess, as it is Saturday, with a loyal servant of Senator Organa making an unexpected appearance. Like I was not expecting him to show up. I mean, to have 3PO show up on behalf of Hera,
pretty cool.
That was, you're watching the scene, and we've talked about it in some of our past episodes. Like you're not sure how that sort of disciplinary process is going to go with her, and then all of a sudden you hear Anthony Daniels' voice off camera, and you're like, no way, it's 3PO. And of course he
continues his run as the longest played character in Star Wars films and
exactly.
TV shows. So
and
absolutely.
so and the fact that he's there on behalf of Leia, who is referenced back in episode 5 from Carson, is just, it's kind of like that icing on the cake that Leia's still pulling the strings in the background. I love the way that they just shut Senator Zeno down with like a this could have been handled through an email sort of thing, right? Like
she would have included me.
Yeah, I would have told you that this was totally fine from the get-go. So but yeah, and then I mean, you talked about Thrawn, but the I feel like a lot of the more recent scenes with Shin and Balin, especially as their characters have been fleshed out more, really anything with Ray Stevenson on screen right now is
phenomenal,
is good for me. So
want more. I'm thinking we're gonna get a cliffhanger on him, and that's gonna be very upsetting because that means
his story will have to be continued.
Which is a problem,
which will make it challenging. because recasting his character would be very difficult if they choose to do that. So, your thoughts, like briefly, without going into too much of like a deep dive breakdown from episode 7, like
Oh,
your
just
h-
the
y- y-
overall feeling
yeah,
of it.
just like what you thought.
I go back to, I know our normal listeners will have heard this many times from me, but if Sabine would just choose to use the lightsaber, I'd
Yeah.
be super excited about it. Instead of trying to hand it off
Yeah.
like it is yours. But no, it was overall really enjoyable episode. Enjoyed seeing um, you know, Balin and Ahsoka again,
Mhm.
and then on top of that, just seeing Ezra interact.
Yes.
So, and he had kind of that Chirrut kind of like
100%.
away about him, like the
Yes.
Force is my ally. That's all
Mhm.
I need. So,
Yep.
really, really, really cool moments and good callbacks too. A few other shows. So yeah,
Yeah, I agree that the ability for, clearly Ezra's been working on stuff, right, in his time away. They've been separated now, what, 10 years roughly. And so I did think I couldn't tell if it was an intentional sort of dig at the sequel trilogy with that interaction between Sabine and Ezra, where she tries to give him the saber and he's like, no, I don't want it. Or if it was just him simply not being comfortable in taking it because, well, let's face it, he hasn't had one for years. But that I texted you and Keith after watching that episode the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Like, she waits till the very end of the battle to pull out the weapon that is
probably most effective,
most powerful. And I understand, and we've talked about this before, but I understand her desire as a Mandalorian to not rely on it, I think,
and
as
use her
much.
weapons. Yeah,
But maybe as she allows herself to open to the Force more, she'll become more confident in using that weapon. So, so the so you got Ezra's interaction with Sabine, and then the parting of ways with Balin and Shin,
Oh yeah,
and the ability for him to
basically just say I've got a higher calling right now,
right,
and then her moving like you have your path, I have my path. It's time to go.
exactly. And I
So
feel like it's something that Obi-Wan would have said to Anakin, right? The impatience to victory would lead to defeat, right? And I feel like there's, not saying that Shin is Anakin, right? Because nobody's the chosen one, of course, but
there's only one.
There is
There can
only
be
one chosen one. Exactly.
There it is.
Although Ezra makes a hard push for that with his outfits for sure. But her drive, her obsession for power and stuff like that feels very Anakin. And so I feel I see parallels in both of their actions.
Yeah.
The
only thing that caught me that episode with just Balin and Shin was when you get Ahsoka catching up to Balin and him telling her, I can't let you interfere. But then, 5 minutes later, he watches her run away from him
steal the howler
and just says, see ya.
Yeah.
Like I'm done now. So it was kind of interesting that he was like, I can't let you interfere with what's going on. But then again, I still have this higher calling that he's like, I can't pursue. Like I have to go.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is I almost feel like her taking, she's effectively given him that sort of getaway, right?
Yeah.
To allow him to pursue whatever it is that's calling to him. And we talked about it last episode, though, about how we thought Thrawn would react when he found out who Ahsoka's master was.
Yeah.
That was, you're just like, he looks at the data pad, he looks up, and he's like, her master was General Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, I mean, he
like,
knows exactly.
How do you not know? It's like, how it's funny because
has nobody figured this out yet,
right?
Yeah.
You wonder how many people actually know that Anakin was Ahsoka's because obviously Morgan didn't
not
know
just that, but then
that
also
Anakin becomes Vader.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
yeah,
I really wish that, I saw something on Twitter, I think Thursday, maybe it's Wednesday, about how I would love to get a novel about Balin.
Sure.
And I came up with a really cool title called The Wandering Wolf.
Oh, somebody pay attention out there.
And so if somebody steals that, cool. Just give me like $100.
Something.
I'll take $100
or an autograph
for the royalty.
Free autograph.
I
Something.
know there has to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure there already is.
Yeah.
With a lightsaber,
With
yes,
more lines.
with way more lines and a deeper, richer backstory, which hopefully will
Flesh out a little bit more.
exactly.
Well,
Anything
I think that's it.
again?
I mean,
We don't want to go
normally,
too deep into.
so normally that would be, I mean, we would spend our hour-long podcast normally on the most recent episode,
Correct.
but today, since we were here, and we didn't know who'd be in the audience, obviously, or listening at home, or in friends and family that haven't watched Ahsoka, we don't want to deep dive too much into that.
Right.
So we're gonna rank our Disney
Yes.
Plus stories that we've gotten so far. So
Right.
as we went through the list the other night, I mean, we have 11. Well, two of them aren't really stories or visions. So very interesting stuff there. But 11 different series that we have in 4 years on Disney Plus.
Not including like the Lego Star Wars shorts or
Correct,
any
yeah.
of that stuff. Like you're talking full
But we
season.
also have multiple seasons of some of those shows.
Right.
So the amount of Star Wars content that we've gotten in the last 4 years has just been incredible. And so we're going to rank that stuff for everybody today. And we're probably going to make fun of each other a little bit. And
100%.
and I'm sure I'm going to get crap for at least one of my things that I'm where I rank something for him. So it'll be good. But I think we're going to start at the bottom of the list. I think we're going to do our bottom three.
Yeah. So real quick, just to give everyone kind of like where we're starting from, right?
yeah.
So we've got so this is animated and live action. So you got Bad Batch, season 7 Clone Wars, season 1 and season 2 of Visions. The only reason we broke those out is because they have their own sort of.
They're unrelated.
They're unrelated to each other. Tales of the Jedi, Ahsoka, Mando, those all together, obviously. Book of Boba, Andor, Kenobi, and Young Jedi Adventures. Because while it may not be made for adults, there is a kids program out there which is actually quite adorable. So, yeah. So let's start. So again, we've got 11. Let's do our 11 through 9.
Okay.
What do you got? What do you got in 11?
So I've got Young Jedi Adventures. I personally haven't watched it.
Okay.
It's also not built for me.
Right.
So I'm probably not going to enjoy it as much as I've enjoyed everything else that I've been shown so far.
Sure. I think your son would love it though. He's old enough to where I think he would enjoy it.
He won't sit down for more than 5 minutes, dude. That's not worth it.
Plop him in front of an adorable cartoon with a blue furry bear and Yoda with a lightsaber. I think he'll buy in.
Oh, we'll see.
Connor loves it.
We'll see.
All right, what do you got at 10?
My 10 is Visions 2.
Okay.
And 9 is Visions 1.
Okay.
The reason why I put them down there is just because they're not canon.
Sure.
Even though I really enjoyed some of the things from Visions 2, especially Visions 1 and 2. Most recently, since we're here to talk about Star Wars stuff,
yes.
I really enjoyed Visions 2 because it had the opening story. I don't know if you remember, but it was
Sith.
the really all art. The entire thing was art. And it was definitely our main protagonist struggle with the dark side, light side within herself. So you initially see her wake up from a dream where there's just black all around her because she was obviously having a nightmare. And as you go through that story, you see the Sith Master, all that good stuff, and how it affects how she colors and how she's drawing her environment.
Right. I do remember that now.
But then at the end of the episode, as they're fighting, she originally is just fighting with the light side saber, and then she switches to go dark side with the dual blade,
which was awesome.
And then which is more or less her accepting herself. And I think we all have that moment in time where we're trying to identify which way we're going in life, and then just accepting that it's all part of us. And so it's just a really cool story. And then there was other cool stories in that, but overall I really enjoyed Visions, but being that it's not canon and not connected to the rest of Star Wars, I kind of I dropped it down there.
Sure. And
what about you?
That makes sense. Yeah, to that point about recognizing that you've got the light and the dark in you, it's very, very reminiscent of what we learned in Ahsoka with Anakin and Ahsoka. So yeah, I've got it actually reverse. So I've got Visions 1 at 10 and Visions 2 at 9. And the reason why is, so Visions 1 had the duel as its opening, which had the Ronin, the Ronin Jedi who ends up getting confronted, and it was that beautiful traditional anime style. But I feel like the other episodes were kind of hit or miss. Not that they were bad, but I felt like the level of consistency in Visions 2 was it was more consistent. Like you said,
and
starting
expanded
with
outside of anime too. Different kind of
the Wallace and Gromit animation
action,
style was fantastic. And and Screecher's Reach, which was the second episode of season 2, uh, was excellent. And then even towards the back of that season, you had it was called Anya's Song, which was a story about a girl who could like hear the kyber crystals calling and like would help her society like farm them basically for the Jedi. And then turns out that she's a bit more force attuned than people think, and she gets taken to the Jedi Temple basically. So now, while we were doing this, while I was doing my ranking, I went onto IMDb because one of the things we do when, for those who don't know, when we talk through a TV show, is we go to the treasure trove that is IMDb for reviews. So,
It's a real blast.
and read some of the user reviews, which I mean, it's one of those. Tell me you haven't watched any of the prior content, and without telling me you haven't watched it. But there is obviously some good feedback in there. So for Young Jedi Adventures, just as an aside for overall ranking, it's a 5.8 out of 10. It is not that bad.
Well, it's also not for adults.
Correct.
The
And
preschoolers aren't writing the reviews.
I don't know. I've read some reviews on IMDb, and I feel like
Maybe they are.
they act like preschoolers sometimes. So yeah, 5.8 out of 10. Again, for children, it's an adorable show. And then Visions 1 and 2 has, I think, a cumulative 7.0.
Because it's together.
Yeah, and I think part of that is, and I think part of the reason for that is, again, because it doesn't necessarily have a direct canon connection. Some people I think don't necessarily appreciate the style of animation. It kind of dropped it down. So, all right, so that's our 11 through 9. Let's go 8 through 6 next.
You gonna lead off this?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
All
Please.
right. Okay.
Please do.
So I will say that. So 8, I've got Book of Boba Fett. And it honestly, it wasn't really close. And I don't say that again. The rankings here aren't necessarily. Right? It's not malicious. It's just that if we take the Mandalorian episodes out of the middle, it's a really weak show, unfortunately. Like I think, and so just for ratings purposes, it's got a 7.2 out of 10 ranking, and I feel like that's kind of buoyed by the 2 Mandalorian episodes in between. I mean, we went 90 minutes without hearing the main character talk in his own show. So, which I felt was kind of problematic. So
We did discuss.
There's a whole host of Boba Fett episodes if you're interested in that. 7, sadly, I have Obi-Wan.
Oh, okay.
Which hurts.
Yeah. That's sad for you.
It is. It's painful.
That's below.
I mean, he's my favorite character.
Yeah, he's below the top.
And
top
he's
there.
not top half. And
wow.
Again, it's a tale of two halves for me. Like the first 3 episodes are, I understand they're kind of character building, but they're not super strong. And then 4, 5, and 6 are heavy hitters. You obviously get Vader. You get the sort of the culmination of his character arc coming, and like the back half of that season is really strong, I think. But I think it's kind of weight, and then you get Owen and Beru at the end, just going to town on an Inquisitor, which
cool.
It's great, and it really builds that relationship that we don't get or understand the backstory of in A New Hope, right? Like how much they actually legitimately cared for Luke and wanting to protect him and stuff like that. So, yeah, I got that at 7, and then this is where it got hard for me. At 6, you're gonna stare at me for this one. I'm pretty sure it's Tales of the Jedi.
Oh, well, that's a little low. That's
and the reason why
it's acceptable because I know how you feel about other characters and other shows.
Right.
I think that's where it comes. Because I understand where you're coming from, but
and it's limited, right? So we only have the 6 episodes. The Dooku arc is great. The Ahsoka episodes are fine, but they're not like super strong. And so really, you're buoyed by 3 really solid episodes right in the middle, right? And for that, it kind of gets knocked down a little bit just because of that. So yeah.
So I'll agree with you on number 8.
Okay.
It's Book of Boba.
Oh, did that pain you?
It hurt. It hurt so much because I agree with you that the Mandalorian kind of without him showing up in those 2 episodes or 3 episodes. Was it 3?
It was 2. It was
2?
I think episodes 4 and 5.
So without him showing up, it just didn't. Well, I mean,
right.
It didn't carry. If we didn't get the side quest, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, and then you're gonna hate 7. I think I went Bad Batch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I went Bad Batch. Yeah. I just comparatively to the other stuff that's on the list, I couldn't put it above anything.
Really?
I was really trying, like
It's because of your love for Vader.
it partly is. It partly is because Obi-Wan is my 6.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Because I was and I toyed with those too. But my love for Vader coming in and being
Mhm.
what he did,
Mhm.
just awesome again. And like it reminded me so much of like the most powerful Vader you can see on
Yeah.
screen.
Mhm.
So that's what I wanted, and that's what was delivered to me. So
Yes.
I love Vader. So so I had the Bad Batch at 7.
Wow.
It hurt a little bit. I mean, it was tough because I think there's so much more to come from Bad Batch, and I think after we get our next season, that ranking probably will change.
That's painful.
Yeah,
It's painful.
but currently that's where I'm at.
So for reference, so I already gave you the Book of Boba. It's a 7.2 out of 10. Obi-Wan is actually a 7.1 out
Oh,
of 10. And so Tales of the Jedi is an 8.2 out of 10. That was my 6. And your 6. No, your
I went
6 was
Obi-Wan.
Kenobi. So
Yeah.
your 7, Bad Batch, 7.8 out of 10.
Okay. So you'd
So
have
I
misstep
mean,
on
so
Tales of the Jedi, and I had
IMDb
a misstep on Bad Batch.
IMDb is not agreeing with you. But I think with Tales of the Jedi, again, I think it's really buoyed by the fact that Ahsoka is a beloved character, and which is fine.
And I would argue that also
And
Dooku
but that's what I'm saying. The
is
Dooku arc, the Dooku stories in
so
that
good,
are phenomenal. And
and that's also how we got more Dooku. So who didn't want that?
and
So
and you get more of an understanding of his character. Not saying again that his actions are justified, but the way he viewed corruption within the Republic and his means to try and correct that, again, perhaps not the best course of action, but there was it was like the anti-hero, right? Like trope, like, right? Like, I can understand why you're doing this, but the way that you're doing it isn't ideal.
yeah,
So, all right. So
absolutely.
that's 8, 7, and 6. Okay. So
We're in the top 5.
we are in the top 5. So let's go 5, 4, and 3. I'll let you lead off again.
Okay. Well, I've got Tales of the Jedi at number 5.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
just discussed that.
Yep.
At number 4, I've got Clone Wars season 7.
Yep.
And at number 3, I've got Andor.
Okay. All right. Discuss. Why you got Clone Wars at 4?
Clone. So we only get one season. So
Mhm.
that's kind of it. But we do get like the best season, arguably,
Yeah.
and it links directly to the movies. I love the season Mandalore. I love Maul and Ahsoka's scenes together.
Yes.
And the escape at the end is awesome. And the first part of the season we get introduced to the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
So can't go wrong there.
Right.
Because it launched an entire series.
That is true.
Pretty cool. I mean, the middle section of the season, I understood it. I mean, it built some character growth and stuff like that. But the two hubs definitely were just awesome, and the fact that you get geared into you get the trailer for Revenge of the Sith.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like to begin because that's the time period that you are directly correlating to. It's just really awesome.
Yep.
That's where I'm at there, and then
You've got
what about what were
well,
yours though?
no, hold on, you got Andor at 3.
I do have Andor at 3.
Okay. So at 5, I have Bad Batch. Again,
So
I
we
mean,
flipped them.
we kind of flipped them, although you've got Bad Batch at 7, which is unforgivable. But at 4, I also have Clone Wars season 7 for a similar reason. But for me, again, it's really anchored by the Siege of Mandalore arc. Those 4 episodes are just I mean, they even did it kind of like a standalone movie at
Right.
Celebration last year, where they had an entire season 7 kind of panel, which was, well, we didn't go to that.
Yeah, I wish
we could not get into that.
I wish we would have gone.
But yeah, the Martez sister arc in the middle is kind of, it's weak. The Bad Batch arc is fun, just again, like you said, for introducing the characters and finding Echo. Which is
You get to see Anakin going down.
Oh,
the
he
path
goes
and then
ham. Yeah, he goes ham. Oh yeah, especially on Trench,
On the trench.
on
Yeah.
Admiral Trench, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then so you have Andor at 3.
Yep.
So I went back and forth on this, and I may actually flip it as I'm sitting here right now, but I'm gonna put. I'm gonna go with. You know what? Nope. I'm gonna say Ahsoka at 3.
Okay.
So you've got Andor at 3. I've got Ahsoka 3. So you explain your Andor reasoning.
So it just didn't beat my first 2. That's my reasoning. It was 3 by default. Like I couldn't put it anywhere else.
Okay.
Like I think that's what it came down to for me. My personal feeling on it. Like
Is it because there's no lightsabers?
No, not this time. No, I mean, I really enjoyed Andor. I think you and I talked about that many times while we were covering the show. But
Yep.
like just the entire environment that they built around the grungy, like where the Rebel Alliance before the Rebel Alliance is a thing,
Right.
and you get to see those players that are still on Coruscant that are in the literally in the darkest places of that.
Oh yeah,
of that
they're
world,
in the underbelly of Coruscant. Yeah.
to make this stuff happen against the Empire. It's just it's incredible. And then we got the insight on the ISB.
Yes.
And really got to. I mean, we met Deidre, and we get to see her superiors, and also see the political game that they play amongst each other to try to get ahead of each other inside the ISB. Just really cool concepts. And even though Star Wars got such a bad rap for going too political in Attack of the Clones and stuff like that in the prequels, this was just like the right element for what this story was about.
Yeah.
And how it was supposed to be played out. So really cool stuff there. Like I said, like I just couldn't put it in the top 2 because of my top 2.
Fair enough. So I have Ahsoka at number 3 simply because it's not finished. And
you could be unhappy.
No.
At the end of this.
No. What I'm saying is like, so we have an unfinished story, and I have it as my 3rd favorite show or series that they've done so far.
Yeah.
And just because of I mean, I was going actually on the drive down here. I was thinking, okay, where's the weak episode? Okay, you had the Time to Fly episode. Episode 3 was, of the entire show so far, the weakest. I feel like Ahsoka is doing a good blend of the run and gun shoot 'em up that we get with Mando, mixed with some of the more cerebral things, especially with the introduction of Thrawn, that we get from Andor. And so I feel like it's becoming like a decent hybrid where you're getting that progressive story, but you're also getting action each week, where that was kind of one of the main digs at Andor, is how slow things moved. And it's actually one of the digs at Ahsoka, is how prolonged some of the discussions are, some of the scenes are. They're drawn out. It's one of the bigger negatives,
right?
I say. But for me, who loves story building and stuff like that, it's one of those where I don't mind taking an extra 45 seconds to let a scene breathe if it makes sense. So with how season 1 ends, and I'm going to assume there's going to be a season 2 at some point. This has every opportunity to,
whether or not it happens before or after the movie that Filoni's going for.
True. So, but it has every opportunity for me to make it into my top 2, or if not be my top show.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got Mando and Ahsoka left for your 2 and 1,
Andor
and I've got Andor and Mando.
And I think we're going to agree on number 2.
Okay. Yep.
Mando.
So that's Mando.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Discuss. Discuss.
You do it.
Me first. Okay.
You first this time.
So again, I think it has to do with the fact that season 1 and 2 were incredibly strong for Mandalorian.
Right.
Season 3, for a lot of people who like season 1 and season 2, I think it kind of missed the mark. Not necessarily in how the story.
What about Mando season 2.5?
Well, but that doesn't. That's in number 8. That's in number 8. And if they had put number 8, those episodes, then number 8 would be like number 11.
Yeah. And season 3 would have been that much better.
Correct. And like if they had let off,
the opening scene is still one of my favorite. I couldn't believe Disney did it. Right. First of all, like I'm like, oh, they did move the PG-13 meter, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like you literally are watching Mando slice up people in half. Like,
Mhm.
cool, go for it through a table.
It's like a dog person.
Yeah, I forget the species, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I could not believe that they're gonna let him hack him in half on that table. That's what they're gonna do.
And not say anything.
And but yeah, no, it's yeah, what a fantastic re-entry to Mando after season 2.
Right.
And then but it wasn't season 3 for Mando yet.
No.
So it was a little crazy. Um but overall season 3 was a little weaker, but I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed obviously everything on Mandalore. I
Yes.
can't get away from it. So
And I didn't have a problem with, again, her Bo eventually reclaiming or repossessing the dark saber. It had more to do with how they got there. Like,
oh yeah, the technicality.
yeah, if you want to
Yeah.
call it that, and the fact that everybody was like, yeah, we'll go along with it. And the fact that,
Well, they didn't exactly go along with it. She did have to beat somebody.
yeah, right, but he didn't even have the sword to take off of him. But one of the things that I think hurts Mando, and I say hurts in quotes,
Very liberally here.
is the fact that we've not progressed from a big bad. Like, end of season 1, right? You're exposed, or you're introduced to Gideon, right? Crashes, makes it out. Episode 2, or end of season 2, we get the amazing scene with Luke and everything on the frigate, and Gideon's caught, right? End of season 3, Gideon maybe dies. Like, everyone's, is it his clone? Is it not his clone? And so, and well, anyone who's actually listened to the show understands my love of Grogu.
He loves him. In
I
case you guys don't know,
I
loves
feel
him.
like he's
It's his
overstayed
favorite.
his welcome.
I'm surprised he wasn't your favorite character today.
I thought about it.
Hmm.
He would have been
That
an honorable
would have
mention.
made me chuckle. It would have made me chuckle.
You wouldn't have believed it.
I wouldn't have. I would have called you out right away.
So number 1 for you is Ahsoka, then, huh?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's kind of weird because it's unfinished, and I played with this a little bit because I almost put Ahsoka at 3 also,
Mhm.
and then bumped everything. And the reason why I put Mando above Andor was because I mean, Mando launched it all for us.
Sure.
And the world that he's in is continually growing.
Yep.
And we're going to see more of him. And when, we've hopefully eventually get a full live action movie
Right.
around the Mandoverse, as they
Mhm.
are calling it now. So it's hard to put him anywhere else but in the top 1 or 2 spots because he launched it all and he's still carrying his weight
Sure.
like really well.
Yep.
And the things they keep unleashing in that backpack that Favreau and Filoni have, and they're just like, I'm gonna pull out this little nugget this week
Mhm.
and plug it in there. Like, did we ever think we were ever going to see a mythosaur on screen? And we haven't even seen the full thing yet.
Right.
And when it was happening on screen, the goosebumps and the excitement just
Yeah.
overcame me. Like, it was insane. So and you knew it was going to happen. When they went down there, you're like,
Oh, yeah.
it's something's
When he
something's
slips
in
and
there.
falls in, yeah.
Something's in there.
Sure.
And that was a point of contention too. Did he slip or not?
Oh,
And
no,
obviously
he
slipped.
definitely slipped.
What a clumsy fool. It's hard to swim with
But
one
that's
arm around.
Mando. That's not Ahsoka.
Right.
So why is Ahsoka number 1 for you?
Well, I think that it just goes back to what we've gotten so far.
Okay.
Like more building. We're in a new place, completely new galaxy we've never seen before.
True.
There's still mysteries there.
Yeah.
And we got introduced to characters that I actually want to know more about consistently. Like,
Mhm.
I want to know more about Balin. I want to know more about Shin. I want to figure out what the Great Mothers are talking about.
Mhm.
Similarly, like when with Balon going out and doing his own thing, like, I want to know what he's searching for.
Yeah.
I want to know why the sisters want to get off the planet because they've been there for a millennia.
Yeah. Who knows how
And
long, right?
and so why are they so anxious to leave?
I
and
don't
get
know
to
why they
their
have a bunch of
universe?
undead Night Sisters.
And
just
why
hanging
why,
out.
yeah, why I think they're dead currently.
Oh, yeah. Right. They are. Yeah.
It looks like they're dead currently.
You're right. Yeah.
But the goal would be to get them to Dathomir and bring them and
Presumably.
reanimate them, right?
Yep.
So I think that there's just so many things in Ahsoka that can spin off, and we get Thrawn
Mhm.
back.
Yeah.
The stuff that's disappointing in that show it doesn't outweigh the stuff that I'm really really excited about, and the characters that we've met that I want to get more of.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I agree with that because I had Ahsoka at 2 originally and Mando at 3. And then I couldn't justify putting a show that had just 1 season Although hilariously, that is my number one. It has just one season, but an uncompleted season above something that had 3 seasons.
And I think the big thing for me too is like Ahsoka just carries the weight too. Like
Yeah.
it's just that character just carries the weight. I
And
mean, you're wearing her T-shirt.
I am, yeah. This is the Roosevelt's summer. What is it? Summer Snips print, and it's amazing. So, yeah, no, I agree. And the thing about the Great Mothers that I just thought about is the fact that I want to know what wiped them out to begin with.
Oh yeah,
And
something had to
maybe that's
happen.
something that Balin, maybe that's the thing that Balin's searching for. So yeah, for me, again, unsurprisingly, if you've listened to the show before, it's Andor. And I can't wait for season 2. And it's for the reasons that I've talked about in the past, but I love a show that you can't just turn on and like have in the background. Like you actually have to pay attention to it. Something that actually builds intrigue, there's suspense and tension. Like every time because aside from Cassian and I guess Mon Mothma, right? You don't know who has to make it, right? Like
Oh yeah,
there's no plot armor for the characters.
right.
And you kind of have that in Ahsoka, right? Technically, like we don't know for a fact that anybody makes it past the season, right? Like they don't have to make it because we don't see them in the sequel trilogy. And so presumably they're somewhere else or they're not around anymore. And I feel like with Andor, the way that they built the suspense in, like you kind of described, the grunginess, the realism of imperial rule and the desire to fight back against that is something that we've not gotten before, like
Yep.
at depth, right? We've gotten the Rebel Alliance in the original trilogy, but they're all in their spaceships, and there's not a lot of the other 99% of the people who are affected by the imperial rule, right? We don't get their story. We kind of start to see that in Andor, and the fact that the rebellion is more than just Han, Luke, Leia, and the crew we see in the original trilogy. And I love getting that depth of resistance rebellion in Andor. Plus, you've got Luthen, who's an amazing character. Kino, who equally amazing. The arcs that they had, the 3-episode mini movies, right? Like the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Like the third act was always the payoff. I just love the way that show was structured. I can't wait for season 2. Because we know what has to happen. We know where they have to
Yeah.
get to.
Yeah.
Um,
And according to the showrunners, I mean, it's going to carry us right into the movie, basically.
correct.
So we know the end. We know the end spot. Like we need to get to a point where they're plotting on saving Jin.
Right. Or we end up with Cassian on that one planet where he's chasing down his informant in the alleyway, right? Because that's when we first meet Cassian in Rogue
Right.
One. But yeah, the second season is going to be year 4 up to 4 BBY up to basically 0 BBY. So we're getting 4 years in one season, whereas this last season was just 5 BBY. So, which is kind of cool because it's actually happening concurrently with Rebels, the animated series. So,
Yep.
So just to recap, because I stopped doing the IMDb rating. So, Clone Wars season 7, 8.4 out of 10.
It's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Ahsoka, 8.0 out of 10.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People had some slow episodes they're not happy with.
I
think.
did go back and like check the ratings to see what was dragging it down, and it was episode 3, Time to Fly, and I think it was episode 2, which is where we get Hera and Ahsoka on on Corellia chasing down.
Oh yeah.
With our first introduction to Marok.
Yeah, I think what's irritating about that specific, setup was like how dumb the New Republic is.
Oh my gosh!
Like
they are the epitome of ineptitude.
Yeah, like, well, we didn't clear everybody out. We need workers still. So you left everybody in charge.
Uh-huh.
Yep, that's exactly what we did, and they are loyal to us now. Duh.
Yeah. Well, and even when we're first introduced to Balin and Shin on the New Republic, like the home, it's not home one, but the home one style ship. It's like they run. They're all neatly dressed. You've got the
commander.
The commander who's just, I don't know what he was thinking, but but yeah, and we even get that with the Senate hearing or the Senate grouping with Mon Mothma, Senator Zeno, and the others, right? When Hera presents the concern and like, oh no, they're totally fine, and we've already seen in Mando that
Yeah, I couldn't figure out if he was a sympathizer, like if he's still loyal to the Empire somewhere, or if he's just that stupid. And I'm leaning towards the latter.
I think that's probably what it
So
is.
he's just oblivious to whatever else
I
going on.
I think so. So so that was Ahsoka 8.0. Mando is currently the highest rated Disney Plus show at 8.7 out of 10.
Pretty solid.
And then Andor is 8.4 out of 10. So Andor and season 7 of Clone Wars are tied for second out of all of the Disney Plus content that we've gotten so far. Now kind of look ahead, right? We've got the season finale of Ahsoka next week.
Yeah. Just a couple days away now.
Yep. We've got, once the actors and writers, I think once the actor and writer strikes, and I know the writer strike is
done.
I think the writer strike is done. And hopefully the Screen Actors Guild strike is resolved
shortly
in short order. But we've got Acolyte and Skeleton Crew
coming out. Yeah, with Jude Law.
Yep. And then we've got news that the Lando series is now going to be a Lando movie.
Yeah, got the green light,
which is interesting.
I'm excited about it.
So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. I mean, how many projects have we heard?
In the last 5 years, there's been 6 different projects announced that got canned.
Now, one thing I want to ask you is, so we had Rangers of the New Republic, right? That was announced a few D23s ago, right?
Right. Yeah.
And originally it was going to be Cara Dune running the training and everything like that, right? Everything's, obviously with everything happening since then, her being written off the show, there's like, okay, what's going to happen with the new Rangers of the New Republic? Well, we get in episode 7 an explanation of where Zeb is.
Yeah, he's training.
And he's training new recruits. What are the chances that you have like a Rangers of the New Republic, but it's got Zeb and Hera and Carson as like your point of contacts, or like your main characters now?
Yeah.
And they can still go through with it, but then you could have like a Rebels feel, not Rebels feel, but like because everyone's asking where's Zeb in Ahsoka, right? He's the only, aside from Kanan, he's the only one who hasn't shown back up.
Right.
And I feel like them saying that, like, they didn't have to mention Zeb, but the fact that they put it out there, I feel like gives them the opportunity now to have him maybe show up in another series, if not season 2. But I think it'd be cool to have Zeb, who is not the greatest of pilots, himself, show up in Rangers of the New Republic. So anything else as far as the Disney Plus stuff that you want to discuss?
No, I think we're good there.
We're good. So do you want to do the trivia? Do we want to do any trivia? No. Okay. So we had trivia questions, but
yeah, a few. We're good though.
We'll not do that. Okay. So I guess we'll kind of close the show. I think we've been going for almost 50 minutes now.
Yeah.
So
the biggest thing is come out to Cape Con's got one more day in it.
Yep.
So tomorrow is 10 to 4.
Yep.
So come on out. It's at the Drury Hotel convention center, or conference center, I guess.
Yeah.
Here in Cape Girardeau. Great show. They got lots of booths inside, lots of vendors. We saw the cosplay contest earlier today. That was awesome.
Amazing.
Really, really great costumes out here. So definitely come out and check them out. They've got, like I said, one more day. We're closing out the show tonight.
Yep.
So don't come tonight because no one will be here for you. But definitely come check them out tomorrow morning, starting at 10 a.m.
Yep.
And then
want to thank Cape Con for having us out.
Oh yeah,
we've had a blast. Shout out to our audiovisual.
Appreciate it. Yep.
For basically running this whole lounge, not just for us, but for all the shows this weekend. Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo. Round of applause. Yeah, and I mean, we've just had a blast. So yeah. So
like, follow, subscribe.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Oh yeah. So I guess we can plug the socials real quick.
Welcome.
So yeah, thanks.
Yep,
I normally do that at the beginning.
Keep you right on pace here.
Appreciate you.
It's me.
This is your contribution.
Let's go.
So yeah, we've got website forcedyadpod.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, all the social channels. You can listen to our show on any podcast platform that you like. Apple, Spotify, Google, Good Pods, pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you'll find us.
We're there.
But we're gonna make our jump to hyperspace. So for Jedi John, I'm Obi Sean, and until next time.
May the Force be with you.
Force.